Hello and welcome to our lesson on testing for gases. This is just a short lesson. There's a video there from YouTube if you want to look at it in a bit more detail. There are 4 gases you need to recognise the tests for. So if you had a chemical reaction and you saw bubbles of gas, there are 4 gases that you would need to be able to test for and recognise the test for. So first of all, hydrogen. Hydrogen, you would talk about a lit splint going into the test tube and making a squeaky pop. It's not going to be enough to just say squeaky pop, you will not get the mark. Testing for carbon dioxide, the key words here is that the lime water, which starts out as a colourless liquid, becomes cloudy or milky if the carbon dioxide is present. Testing for oxygen, you have a splint which is glowing, so it's not on fire, it's just glowing, but if you put it in a test tube full of oxygen gas, it would relight a glowing splint. Finally, then the test for chlorine, a bit of an unusual one, often appears with electrolysis. Chlorine is an acidic gas, so if you put damp blue litmus paper in, so litmus paper is an indicator paper, it goes red in an acid and blue in an alkali. So damp blue litmus paper would first of all go red because it's acidic, but then it would bleach out. So the paper itself would actually bleach. It would turn white because chlorine is a bleach and it would turn the paper white. There's the 4 tests. Typically they're badly done, badly answered. So let's look at some questions and see what we can do. Okay, so multiple choice question. As always, read all the options and have a go and pick your best guess. Okay, so it says a student tests which gas is produced in a reaction using a glowing splint. The gas relights the glowing splint. What is the name of the gas? So you need to think about what of those 4 options, which one relit the glowing splint, and the answer is D for oxygen. Okay, this one here then. So lots of information. The question here says, what is the name of the gas produced? So we're looking for a gas. The student investigates the temperature change in an exothermic reaction. I've got a diagram there, not particularly helpful. This is the method the student follows. Measure 25 centimeters cubed dilute hydrochloric acid in a polystyrene cup. Measure the temperature of the acid, add 1 small spatula of magnesium powder and stir the mixture. When magnesium reacts with dilute hydrochloric acid, a gas is produced. So this bit here is the bit that you need. If this was me in an exam and I'm thinking, okay, well, what gas could I make? Well, you should know that if you know what the reactants are, you can guess, predict the products. So if I'm thinking, well, I've got magnesium, which is Mg, I've got hydrochloric acid, HCl, what am I going to make? Well, it could be hydrogen gas, we know that one. It could be chlorine gas, we know that one. So you've got a 50-50 chance there just looking at the reactants, but you should know that you would make magnesium chloride, which would leave you the hydrogen, and so the hydrogen would be the correct answer there. Okay, so pause the video and have a go at this question for yourselves, please. Okay, so this was a foundation question, but people didn't find it easy, so let's have a look. It says this question is about group 1 and about group 7 elements. A group 1 element, D, reacts with water. So D is not the name or the symbol of the element, it's there to, we don't know what it is yet, we're going to have to guess what it is. Group 1, if you think about it, it's this highly reactive lithium, sodium, potassium, all those ones that we put in the water and they explode and they fizz and they pop and they burst into flames. Okay, so this is the equation, 2D plus 2H2O making 2NaOH plus E. It's asking us to name element D. So again, this goes back to what we've been saying before. If we know what we've got on one side, we can predict what we've got on the other. So we have an unknown on both sides, which isn't very helpful. So we have to assume that they've given us the information we need. So what is missing from the reactant side that we have in the product side? Well, the only one I can see there is the sodium. So the answer is sodium. And that makes sense, doesn't it? It's a group 1 element. The next bit isn't particularly relevant. A teacher shows this reaction in class, one safety precaution. You could put goggles, you could put the safety screen, whatever. We're not particularly bothered about that bit at the moment. Let's move on. E is a colourless gas. So again, E is not telling us the name of the element. It is telling us this is one we've got to guess again. So how can you show if the gas is hydrogen or oxygen? Describe the test for hydrogen and oxygen and the results you would expect with gas E. Okay, now there's only 2 marks for this, so you're going to have to get quite a lot of information down for each mark. So the test for hydrogen, well, the test for hydrogen, if you think back to that first slide, was you light a splint in the test tube or a lit splint in the test tube and it makes a squeaky pop. Now this is the bit where you're going to go wrong. Result with gas E. What is E? If I look at the equation, what could it be? Well, you should know if you react water with the group 1, it would actually make hydrogen. But if in doubt, you've only really got an option of oxygen or hydrogen there. But hydrogen would be the answer, and therefore you would have a positive result for hydrogen, or you would say that it makes a squeaky pop, something like that. So what's the test for oxygen? Test for oxygen is it relights a glowing splint. Now, if you do this test for oxygen with gas E, you're actually going to get a negative result, aren't you? It's not going to relight because you have hydrogen, not oxygen. And that's where people trip up, that positive, negative. What is the result with that particular gas? Okay, so this was a higher level question. Pause the video and have a go. Okay, so again, we're talking about group 1 and group 7 elements. They're very reactive. It says, look at the reaction cycle. Looks a bit bizarre, doesn't it? I've got element A and I'm adding it to some water and I'm making something, and then I'm adding dilute acid and I'm making compound C, and then I'm dissolving it, I'm making compound B, and then I'm heating it with bromine. And okay, well, let's read the question. It says D is a colourless gas. Okay. How can you show if the gas is carbon dioxide, hydrogen or oxygen? So very similar to the previous question. Notice again there's only 3 marks, so you're going to have to say quite a lot to get that mark. So it says test for carbon dioxide. Well, the test for carbon dioxide, you should know, is that the lime water would go cloudy or milky. Okay, so what would the test for carbon dioxide do when we test it with gas D? So we need to know what gas D actually is. Well, before I can figure out what gas D is, I might need to know what element A is. Right, element A, and then I'm adding water and I've got NaOH. So it makes sense that element A is Na because that would make NaOH, and it would also make H2 because it's going to make the hydrogen gas. Okay, in which case the test of carbon dioxide as lime water goes cloudy, and if I tested that with gas D, it would be a negative result because it isn't like carbon dioxide. Okay, what's the test for hydrogen? Lit splint, makes a squeaky pop. What would the test for gas D be? Well, gas D is hydrogen, so it would be a positive result. What's the test for oxygen? We're going to relight a glowing splint. And what is the result with gas D? Well, again, gas D is hydrogen, so it would be a negative result. So you can see there 1 mark for each of those, including the result with D. So often people lose all 3 marks on that kind of question because they're not aware of what it's actually asking them to do. So just be careful with this. You need to know your gases. You are going to be asked about them. You're going to be asked about multiple ones of them. Make sure you know them. They're easy marks if you can remember them. Right, that's the end of today. I will see you later.